Chapter 3 Ruby. Fluffy like nothing else, if she had mastered the art of being fluffy, if that is a thing, I explained as Catelyn rolled her eyes at me. Are you sure? A direwolf? She asked again. Incredibly sure. She was absolutely gorgeous, I said with a firm nod as Catelyn seemed to consider my words. And you fed this direwolf a stag? She asked again. Ugh. Well, no, she sort of stole the stag from me, but I guess in a way, yeah. I killed the stag and the wolfie ate the... Yeah, I guess. I shrugged as Catelyn seemed thoughtful for a moment, looking to the side for a moment before looking me in the eyes. The Greyjoy told me he saw you with that blacksmith's boy and Arya all playing with swords in the Godswood, Catelyn said slowly. I managed to keep my cool under her stern gaze, only sweating a little bit. My hands were barely shaking at all, but I put them behind my back anyway, as I tried to think of how to survive this moment. That's a lie! Arya lied. He is so stupid! I hate him! I hate him! She screamed, her face turning red as she raged against Theon Greyjoy, a hostage Ned treated more like a guest than a prisoner. I felt some guilt about the fact that Theon had likely only told on Arya and me because I had been very firm with Theon with how I felt about him after he had pestered me too much. He was 19! My body is 14 years old! Why was he even trying? That was gross! He was the sort of person that would get punched by Never mind. Arya, calm down, Catelyn demanded as Arya started to cry, her face turning all blotchy and red and gross. You're not in trouble. Ruby never did anything! I made her do it! Arya whined, and I felt my eyes start to water. Then she should have known better. You have no way of forcing her to do anything. It was a foolish and dangerous thing to do. Catelyn snapped, but grit her teeth. I am giving you both a warning, she said at last as Arya sniffed up a super disgusting sounding booger. I will be speaking to your father, however, and he shall have the final say on this sword business. I kept my expression neutral, but it was unusual for Catelyn to rely upon Ned's authority as a father when it came to her children. But it was clear that Arya was very upset. Yes, my lady, I said, reaching for a skirt that extended just past my knees over a set of thick and comfortable woolen trousers. I performed a respectful curtsy, and that seemed to satisfy Catelyn. I then looked over at Arya, who had her little fists all balled up, but her mother's stern gaze bearing down on her eventually caused the girl to relent and nod. Yes, mother, she offered, and Catelyn nodded, seemingly satisfied for now. Off with the both of you then. I'll be going to see your father now. With that, she turned about and strode out of the little workshop while Sir Wylis glanced at the both of us and nodded, before quietly closing the door. Eddard. Cold blood clung to ice as he set the timeless blade upon a knee and ran a cloth down the blade, wet with the still water of the Godswood pond. Even in the cool shadows of this ancient place, the great sword seemed to ripple in the light, as 1,000 dark shades of its Valyrian steel caught the faint red-tinted light that passed through the weirwood leaves at his back. He would always come to this place after having delivered the king's justice, always sit before the face of the old heart tree. He would always wash away the blood in these waters, and tend to the blade that hardly needed such care. A Valyrian steel blade could be left in the wild for 1,000 years, and still keep an edge, they say. He doubted that, but it was a fact that blades like ice wanted to be sharp. He set aside the first cloth and took a second out of a pouch as well as a small bottle of a foul-smelling oil that failed to compete with the scent of 10,000 flowers that had already long commanded the very air around him. Ned. Her voice was quiet even in this place, quickly swallowed up by a place ancient beyond reckoning. Catelyn, he replied as he looked upon the woman he loved, the Lady of Winterfell for over 15 years. She looked uncomfortable in this place, a place that by rights she ruled as much as he did. Where are the children? He asked as she approached. Sansa went to her room to tend to one of her dresses. Arya was with that girl. You know that she is letting her play with swords. Ned knew she was referring to Ruby. Wooden swords. Ruby knows girls ought not to toy with even blunt steel in jest. It's harmless fun. Ned waved a hand. So you knew they were doing it? Cat snapped as Ned set his lips at the trap he had so easily fallen into. Ruby would not have Arya come to harm. She loves her. His words did little for Catelyn, who folded her arms and looked at him. The girls have helmets that cover their face when they do it. He gestured with a hand. It's not the place of a lady to swing swords about, even if it is a stick, risk of injury or not. Catelyn continued. It makes Arya happy, so she is willing to take her lessons well. Ned offered. She ran out of her lessons today, Ned. Cat countered. Well, I shall tell her that if she wishes to play with the wooden swords, then she had best do her lessons and do them well. Ned resolved. Cat looked at him for a moment longer before she sighed and nodded. Very well. If you have made that decision, I will not gainsay it, she said at last. What of Bran? Ned changed the subject as he ran the oilcloth across ice. Bran is with Robb. She paused and thought for a moment. I am not sure how he is taking things, she admitted at last. He is old enough to... I know, Cat said quickly, closing her eyes and taking a calming breath. I know, but I worry for him, for all of them. He will not be a boy forever. Winter is coming. Ned reminded her, and she glanced at the face of the wayward tree before looking away into the inky black of the pond. Anywhere but at him. Bran took it well, Ned assured her. You would have been proud of him. At last, Cat looked at him with a wry smile. I am always proud of him, of all of them, she assured him. He already knew that was true. Ben writes to me that many more men have tried to flee the Watch. He is trying to support Castle Blackrim's new holdings in the Gift, but they are down below 1,000 men at the Wall, and are losing men in rangings too, not just desertions. The Wildlings, Cat prompted, and Ned nodded. Of course, they have rallied to this so-called King Beyond the Wall. There might be a time where I must call my banners and ride north to deal with him for good. Ben cannot resettle that land if the small folk fear wildlings roving past the Wall, Ned explained as Cat grew pale. You would go beyond the Wall? Mance Rayder is no threat to us, Ned assured her. There are darker things beyond that wall, Cat warned him. Perhaps long ago, but the children of the forest have been gone for 8,000 years. Ned dismissed Cat's worries with a gentle smile. And no living man had ever seen a direwolf either. Cat's voice was not filled with mirth, but with an assured certainty. What? Ned asked, baffled. What do you mean? A direwolf? The bastard encountered one, she said. Just this morning, while hunting alone in the Wolfswood to the north of Winterfell. She said it was roughly 13 miles into the woods from the gate. That is very close, Ned said after a moment. A direwolf? He asked again. That girl is many things, but a liar she is not. A giant she-wolf, taller than she is and fat with pups. That is what she saw, Cat explained before rolling her eyes. She also went to some lengths to describe the thing's fur. Pale and fluffy, I am to understand. Ned exhaled in amusement at that. She could have been mistaken. Ned offered after a moment to consider. Perhaps she was, but even so, a sizable wolf, brazen enough to get that close to Winterfell is something to take seriously. Ned nodded as Cat spoke. Upon that she was right. It would be a sad thing to kill the beast. Perhaps the party can drive it north or west, so it settles in less settled territory. Ned mused. I am more concerned that this is an omen, Catelyn admitted. That the beast made way south of the wall? That the Night Watch are reporting troubles? Man's radar? We must take heed of these warnings. I take your meaning. I will ask Ruby about it personally. Perhaps she will remember something else. Ned resolved. He then glanced at Cat, who looked deeply conflicted all of a sudden, and a cool grip of concern gripped his belly. Cat? It occurred to him that his wife would not come to this place he so misliked just to bring news of Ruby's exploits and news of the faraway north. I am sorry, my love, she said at last, stepping forwards and kneeling on a soft and dry, vibrant green kitchen that carpeted the earth. Terrible news has arrived by Raven. Jon Arryn is dead. Is this news certain? Ned asked, his words sounding harsher than he intended, but Cat only squeezed his hand supportively. It was written in Robert's own hand and marked with his seal. Lord Arryn was taken quickly and did not suffer long. I know he was like a father to you. She took his silence with a sympathetic look and continued. My sister and her son have returned to the Eyrie. I wish they had gone to Riverrun instead, as the Eyrie is a lonely place. Cat lamented. Go to her. Take the children. Lysa should not be alone in her grief, and that boy should have other children around him. Ned advised his love. Would that I could, but the king is riding to Winterfell to seek you out. Ned was grateful at that moment for Cat to offer him the good news last. It had been so long since he had seen Robert. Despite the terrible news of Jon's passing, he found a smile upon his face. But it was soon that his duties as Lord of Winterfell began to press upon him. He leaves us little time to prepare. How many people would he bring? How are we going to feed them all? The entertainment? He turned to his wife as he shared his smile and shook her head. Worse than the winter, the king is coming, she teased, and Ned was glad for the company of his love at that moment as he laughed. Ruby. Clay Serwyn? I offered, earning a humming sound from Sansa as she restitched one of the seams at the hip of her dress. The Serwyn boy? Did he do well in the last tourney? She frowned, and I thought back to the last time I had seen Clay. He had come to take part in one of the regular tournaments held at Winterfell, ostensibly for the realm, but it was rare that any Southerners attended. It was in the tournaments and feasts that noble children could get to spend time together and learn about each other. He performed well in the recital, but was drummed out of the archery and the wrestling. I paused for a moment and tied off the thread on one of the sleeves. I had been inspired to embroider some wolf heads into Sansa's dress, since the bulk of the refitting work had been so quick, but now I was on head number 4 and... I should have just gone with 2. He never took part in the melee? Sansa stood up to take a drink of some thinned wine that was left on the other side of the room from her dress. No, he must have been injured in the wrestling or something. You don't remember him? You commented on his attempt to grow a beard. My words were punctuated by a scandalized gasp from Sansa. I remember now! It was so bad! Just on the top of his lip. He honestly needs to just give up on that until he can grow a beard properly. Sansa tittered in amusement. You are so mean, I teased. All the boys get excited the moment a single hair starts to show up. Look at Rob. Ugh, don't remind me. Sansa grossed out before her eyes shined. Best feature? She asked. Oh, his voice. He almost won, I replied. He was a bit plain, if I remember right, Sansa offered, and I shrugged. Alright. She changed the subject of our gossiping. Galbert Glover. What? Ew! He's old and married, with children, I pointed out. He's not that old, and we're just comparing lords. He is handsome, Sansa argued firmly. Far too much dad energy. I waved a hand and stuck out my tongue as my little sister rolled her eyes. You are at once the most and least picky person in the world, Sansa accused me as she finished the stitching. How's it going? I asked, desperate to avoid Sansa's attempt to defend the attractiveness of old men. You were right when you said this would take longer than an evening, she said with a sigh. And with the king arriving soon, Sansa grumbled. Ha! Soon? It will take them 2 or 3 months to get here with all of the people they will be bringing, I pointed out. That is soon, she snipped, jabbing a needle at me as I held up my hands in surrender. We will have the Queen here and her family, and so many people from King's Landing, and we have barely any time to prepare, she whined. It will be fine, Sansa. What could the most beautiful lady of Winterfell possibly need to prepare for? Sansa preened at the compliment. Plenty, standing next to you for one, she offered sweetly, and I laughed. You won't have to worry about that. I will be keeping well out of sight, I informed her. Catelyn had not wanted to outright say it, but it would not be appropriate to present me to the king. Why? You are my sister just like Arya. Sansa huffed as we started to put away thread and needle as the night grew dark. The both of us had gotten into our bedclothes hours ago when we started working on the dress. A sister who lives in a wonderful castle and gets to spend her days with the people she loves. And I get my own little workshop too. I picked up a brush and Sansa sat in front of me, no words needing to be exchanged as we entered a familiar rhythm. Hiding you away isn't fair. How are you meant to find a rich and handsome husband? She pointed out as I began to run the brush through her hair. I'm not terribly worried about that, Sansa, I offered as she crossed her arms. If you never found a husband, I would have you live with me in my husband's keep, she said at last. No matter what happens, you will always be my sister, she assures me. I just need a little cottage with a smithy on the side, I teased. The best smithy in the world, Sansa countered. With 100 dresses and a garden path leading right to my door. With the greatest cooks in all the 7 kingdoms to make you honey sweet rolls every day. It sounds wonderful, but what do you get in return? I began to fold Sansa's stunning auburn locks into a hairnet. Fresh venison, an unpaid seamstress, and a captive audience for all of my complaints. She grinned as she slipped into the bed while I placed the last log on the fire for the night. So the truth comes out. I giggled as she held the blanket up for me to get under it with her after I put out the candles around the room. Well, it is a tempting offer, I said as we settled into Sansa's expensive and comfy bed. You can't say no. I forbid it, she yawned. Well, if I don't find a husband, I will take you up on it. I turned to the side and looked at her bright blue eyes lit by the dim flickering fire of the grand stone fireplace across the room. Oh, and one more thing, Ruby? Sansa whispered before sleep took us. Yes, Sansa? If you kick me tonight, I will push you out of the bed. So mean,